Showdown, much appreciated.
Pleasure. Thanks very much, Peter.
We're joined now here in the Sky News studio from the US Study Centre by Tom Switzer. Mr. Switzer, thanks for your company.
Peter.
Haven't had you on the program for a while, since Contrarian days.
Good
You've
to be
been
back.
bunting my calls, rejecting them. I had to resort to a private number to be able to get you to answer my phone call, but we're good to have you on board.
I'm focused on American politics these days.
And on exactly that. Who's this bloke that Mitt Romney's picked as his vice presidential running mate? What's his story? Is he going to value add or is he going to value subtract, in your view?
Well, look, it's a big risk for Romney. He's essentially a very young guy, relatively speaking, 42. Although he is a political grown-up, he's been in Congress now for 14 years.
But he's in the lower house, he's not in the upper house.
That's right, it's very rare, you're quite right. It hasn't, a sitting member of Congress in the House of Representatives hasn't been on a running ticket and on a national scene since Geraldine Ferraro in 1984, when she was Walter Mondale's pick against Ronald Reagan. That didn't end so well for the Democrats. They only won one state out of 50. But look, this guy...
When was the last time, I'm putting you on the spot here, but when was the last time that they were a running mate in a general election on the Republican side?
For a congressman, I think you'd have to go back to 1960.
Okay.
Yeah, with Richard Nixon.
So really, it has been a long time.
It has been a long time, yes. Usually they're a senator or a governor. But look, this guy...
And that's because they have more experience normally, a senator or a governor.
Absolutely. But why he's chosen Paul Ryan is a simple one. He's bold. He has ideas.
On tax in particular?
Well, a variety of issues. Over the course of the last 2 years, Americans have been having this big debate about how best to reform the economy, particularly reform entitlement programs, because according to many congressmen and legislators and economists, a lot of these welfare entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, they're on an unsustainable trajectory. So something needs to be done in order to fix these programs. His argument is that these programs need to be reformed if they're going to be there for the next generation of Americans. Now, Liberals and Democrats, generally speaking, recognise there's a problem, but they don't want to deal with it. That's his argument. The counter-argument, of course, Democrats will be putting is this is going to be radical change, and at a time of uncertainty and deep doubt, why embrace that change?
And on that exact issue, take us into the mindset of Americans versus perhaps the mindset of Australians, because I hear you say that, and in the context of our country and our political culture, that sounds like a scary political proposition for the Republicans. But is it the same in the United States, where they've got much more of a kind of free enterprise, sort of individualist culture?
Yeah, I think the cultures and countries are different. Americans, generally speaking, are more reform-oriented, they're more optimistic about the future, but these are dark days for America. The unemployment rate is 8.3%. Stubbornly high. The Americans have been out of a recession, technically speaking, for more than 3 years, and they're still sluggish economy. And also, you've got these high levels of debt. It's 100% debt to GDP ratio. Consumer business confidence is very low. You've got polls showing 75% of the American people think their country is either going down the wrong track or in decline.
But all of that's got to be worse for Obama than for a radical running mate for Romney, doesn't it? At the end of the day, he's the incumbent. He's presided over this.
Yeah, that's a good point. But bear in mind, I think before this weekend, the Republicans could have easily run an argument that this is a referendum on Obama's poor handling of the economy. Now, because it's the Republicans proposing big, bold, radical reforms, a bit like John Huston in 1992, 1993, all of a sudden the spotlight is on the Republicans and selling complicated, radical, bold market reforms, however plausible, and I think some of these reforms are, all things considered, a healthy thing. It's a hard sell, particularly when you're dealing with a lot of senior citizens in battleground states.
And he's from Wisconsin. You mentioned battleground states. Now, Wisconsin is a state, correct me if I'm wrong, that was sort of considered to be a bit of a Democrat heartland, isn't it? It's one of the ones that Obama certainly won last time and was expected to win again. But now, what impact on that with this candidate coming on board on Romney? They would hope to pick up that state, wouldn't they?
It's hard to know. You're right. It went the Democrat solidly in 2008, and indeed Ryan's local electorate, which he has held in the last 7 terms, actually goes Democrat at the national level, but he manages to win it reasonably convincingly, so that tells you about his star quality on the ground as a campaigner. But look, it's hard to tell. It's a fairly Catholic area, that whole Midwest. He is Catholic. Of course, Romney is a Mormon. No evangelicals on the ticket, which is another interesting thing about Republican politics.
So will he get the vote out?
Well, it's hard to know. He will definitely get a huge groundswell of support among the conservative Tea Party base of the Republican Party.
Is it about getting rid of Obama more than electing Romney, though?
Well, no, I think it's about electing Ryan. I think Ryan brings a lot of pull. He's a darling of the conservative right, particularly the pro-growth Jack Kemp, Ronald Reagan, Barry Goldwater pro-growth right, if you like. So he will bring a lot of benefits to this ticket. But ultimately, though, it'll come down to this mother of all scare campaigns that the Democrats will run. You know, we so often hear in American and Australian politics that those nasty conservatives are the ones who run scare campaigns. Well, we found out in 92, 93 it was Paul Keating who ran the mother of scare campaigns against John Hewson's fightback. Get ready for the Democrats to do the same thing to the Republicans.
In fairness, Tony Abbott's not doing a bad job with the old scare campaign on the carbon tax.
Both sides of politics do it, and it's ultimately a healthy thing because you're just bringing out, highlighting the perils of your opponent's argument. No party has a monopoly to it, but I think this will be very dirty. But ultimately, it's a very good thing for American politics because here you have candidates talking about ideas and ways to reform the economy and these important entitlement programs.
But if it's done on this downside, this sort of scare campaign, as you talk about, and I agree, I think that's what it's going to look like as an outsider looking in. There's a real irony there, isn't there? Because, you know, you've got Barack Obama elected on this real hope platform when he came in 4 years ago, and your prediction, at least, is that he's going to be basically running on not so much hope as fright and scare about the other side to get re-elected. That doesn't tell you a lot from positive politics.
No, it doesn't. And look, he has been a disappointment, and I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that he raised all these expectations in 2008 about hope and change, which ultimately is a very American thing to do. But when the Obama administration legislated its big spending stimulus package in early 2009, they were very confident saying this will lead to 6% unemployment within 2 to 3 years. That hasn't happened. It's still 8.3%.
And we saw John Howard lose an election in 2007 despite a strong economy. Can a US president win a presidential election in spite of a weak economy?
Well, Harry Truman won in 1948 against the Republican Thomas Dewey. The economy was just exactly, very just. But the economy was in a pretty bad way. It was starting to improve. The unemployment rate was about 7% or so. So it can happen, but I think the only way he can win is by highlighting a negative campaign and trying to tear apart his opponents. He's not going to run on an optimistic plan. It won't be morning again in America like it was for Ronald Reagan in 1984, put it that way.
So if you had to walk through a door and your life depended on it, who's going to win?
Well, I've said on the record several times that I've always thought that Romney won't so much win, but Obama will lose. But I think the weekend decision does change the dynamics. I think it's a very exciting time in American politics. Here you have a bold, articulate, sharp candidate, the Vice President that is, not so much Romney, going out on the hustings, selling his idea about how to get America moving again. And
you think that's going to work?
Well, I don't know. I think this is where the jury is out, and it all comes down to these key battleground states.
So if you had to pick right now, you walk through a door, you get it wrong, you die. Which one are you going with?
Well, I've said Romney, and I'll probably stick with Romney, but my get-out clause is if Romney and Ryan get wrong-footed by the scare campaign, then the ball game changes. I mean, here we have the Howard battlers, as you well know. In American parlance, it's the Reagan Democrats, particularly in those swing states. If they flip to the Democrats on the back of a scare campaign, it's all over Red Rover.
And in the time we've got left, I want to ask you about the fact that Mitt Romney is a Mormon. Now, you know, some segments of the political debate, certainly during the primaries, are referring to it as cult-like, as a religion. Now, whether that's accurate or not is, in a sense, neither here nor there. Where does that leave him, just with that sort of attack, nasty form of politics that try to isolate him as a religious minority? Is this something that he should be worried about, or is this a factor, or is it something that is overblown by people that are, let's face it, being sort of deliberately bigotry about it?
Well, look, I think there are two schools of thought here. There's a respectable school of thought that says Americans will never vote for a Mormon. I don't subscribe to that argument. I think, generally speaking, Americans are very open-minded and they're tolerant of other people's beliefs. I sincerely believe that. I don't think this will be a problem. He himself joked about it during the Republican primaries when he was up against Gingrich and Giuliani and McCain and all these people over the last few years. He countered accusations that he supported polygamy by reminding everyone that he was the only candidate who only had one wife. So, look, this won't be a problem for him. Ultimately, it will come down to whether he and his running mate Ryan can sell this bold agenda and win over Middle America.
And we've got about a minute left, but just in that time, if you can, give us the 2 or if it's 3 key battleground states in your view, and what the issues will be in those states.
I think the 2 big battleground states are the 2 big battleground states that really was the balance of power, changed the balance of power in both 2000. This is Bush, Gore. Remember, it all came down to those Chads in Florida, so Florida is one, and of course the other state was Ohio, which helped Bush beat John Kerry in 2004.
Different issues or same issues, the economy?
No, they are different issues. I think in Florida a lot of it could come down to the housing market. And a lot of it can also come down to seniors, how they vote, because there's a huge retirement group there, and if they're scared about losing their benefits as a result of some of these medical reforms, they will support Obama. In Ohio, it's a Rust Belt area, a lot of manufacturing, Reagan Democrats, hard-working class, socially conservative, aspirational folks.
And for Romney to win, he needs to get both, or he gets over the line with just one?
Preferably both.
Preferably both.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Switzer from the US Studies Centre at Sydney University. We are out of time. We appreciate you joining us on this episode of Showdown. We'll have you back, hopefully, before the next US election.
Good on you, mate. See ya.
And thanks very much for your company. We are out of time. We'll be back at the same time next Tuesday. Parliament's sitting again, so we'll have a raft of MPs out of the Parliament to talk to about the sort of issues that are going on there, including Michael Danby and Jamie Briggs for a debate between Liberal and Labor in reverse order. I'm Peter Van Onselen. Thanks for your company.